Making a database that will allow me to look up information and also add information. And I'm starting with an Excel list, and let's say these are students that we'll need to look up and check in. And I need to get this Excel list into a database, so I'm going to open up Access. We'll start with a blank database. We'll name the database, and we'll click Create. We don't need this table that was already created because we're going to pull the Excel sheet in and turn that into a table. So we'll click External Data, New Data Source. We're in the Import and Link group. From File, Excel. And we'll browse and find the Excel file. And we want this first option, import the source data. Okay. It's asking me if the first row contains column headings, and it does. And it puts a break in the data exactly where I want it. I'll tap Next. Now the last time I did this, I let it default to number for banner. But I'm not going to be doing any calculations on this banner ID, so it's better just to make this a short text field. Ace's username is short text. Last name is short text. First name, and we're going to import comments as well, even though there's nothing in there. If we didn't want to import something, we would click Do Not Import Field. Click Next. And we don't need a primary key. Next. And let's call this table Raw Data. And close. And we'll just take a quick look at it to make sure it imported okay, and looks like it did. Now we need to make another table that will be data entry. This is table we'll be grabbing information from. The data entry will be grabbing information from this, so I'm going to just make a copy of this table, but only the structure and not the data. So I'm going to right click on Table, and I'll click Copy. And then within the navigation window, I'll just tap Paste. And I want structure only. And OK. So now we just have an empty table that has the same fields as the full table. Now I'm going to make a form based on this blank table, or we'll start with basing it on the blank table. So we'll go to Create. In the Forms group, we'll click on Form Wizard. And it's asking me first it asks me which table, and this is the one I want, copy of raw data. It shows all the tables. And it's asking me which data do I want in the table. And I want all of it, so I'll click this arrow here, the double one. If I wanted to send over one at a time, I click this arrow. Now one thing I forgot to check, the comments should have been long text. Let me go back. I'm going to hit cancel here. And let's look at the design of this structure here. Let's go back to Home. And then Design View. Yeah, comments is short text. That's like 1 or 2 words. I'm going to change this to long text. And we'll see the difference it makes in creating the form as well. And I'm going to save that. And now let's go back to, we'll go back to Datasheet View. And back to Create. Form Wizard. Put all the data on the form. Next. And we want this form to be columnar. Next. And we'll just go ahead and call the form the same as it. Actually, we can call it, let's put it together with no spaces. We'll call it Form Copy of Raw Data. And we'll go to, well, let's go ahead and we'll open it up and see what it looks like. And there's the form. But what we need to do now is add like a drop-down list that will look up data and put it in the form. So let's go to Design View. And that's from the Home tab over here on the far left, and click Design View. And I'm going to put a combo box here at the top. So let me stretch out my form a little bit. I'm going to drag this down. Then I'm going to select all of this part. And then left click and drag this down. Now here I'm going to add a combo box control. And here we're going to need some code. And I had to Google how to do this. Here's one site that shows how to do it. Tech Republic. And it walks me through how to put a combo box on the form. An unbound combo box. And it gives me the code I need to add to the form. So let's give it a try. So under the Design tab, while I'm in Form Edit View, I'm going to click the Combo Box control. And that is this one. And then I'll just draw it up here at the top of my page. I'm left clicking and dragging. There's my combo box control. And I want the combo box to get values from another table or query. That's the first option. That's the one I want. Next. And I want to get it from the raw data table. Next. And I want all of these fields except comments. I want banner, and I want it in this order: aces, last name, first name. And next. And we could put it in order by banner. And next. And this is what it'll look like. Next. And do I want to store the data? And yeah, I want to store the banner in banner. Next. And let's choose this once more, store the value in this field. And next. And Access wants to call this Combo 11. You can name this whatever you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at Combo 11. And finish. Let's go to Form View. There's my drop down. And notice when I select banner, it fills in banner here. And also note that it does a search. Notice when I type 3, then it pulled up the information that starts with 3. So it can do a search through drop down, and it can search as you type. But now we want these other fields to fill in as well. So I'm going to go back to Design View. And with the combo box selected in the Design View, I'm going to click on Property Sheet. And actually, I'm going to leave this name Combo Box 11, but for the purpose of the user, I don't want to call it Combo Box 11. Let's call it Lookup. So the label is Lookup, yet the name is still Combo 11, and the label name is Combo 11 Label. So we'll leave the name at Combo 11. And now we need to set up an event. So we'll click the Event tab. And in the On Change area, we'll click the ellipses. We'll click Code Builder. OK. And now I'm going to paste the code from the website. So here is the code from the website. Of course, this is the structure. It's not exact because I'm using Combo 11. So I'm going to change 17 to 11 in both of these. And I have 3 areas where I want data. I want the username, last name, and first name. And notice how it's helping me fill in the data here. And that's what I have so far, but I need to double check my form because they're probably not named text 19, text 22. So let me see if I can just minimize this. And I need to get the name of this one. Control source is aces, but I need the actual name. Oh, here we are under other. Here's the name. That's aces. And for this one, the name is last name, but we probably don't want to use a space when we're doing code. So I'm going to just delete the space. And we still have last name over here on the label with the space. And let's do the same thing with first name. We'll take out the space. And we'll go back to the code. So here, this will probably be aces. This would be last name. This would be first name. And save. Then we can close this. And now let's take a look at the form. Now it looks like our numbering is off because in aces I have last name and in last name I have first name. So I need to do some renumbering. So let's go back to design view. And we need to select the banner drop down. And we'll go to event. On change, click the ellipses. Let's take a look at the code again. So this should be 1. This should be 2. And this should be 3. We'll save and close. And we'll go back to form view. And let's try it again. And now we got a syntax error. And this part is highlighted. Well, actually this is highlighted and this part is highlighted. Let's take a look. Oh, I see I have a typo here. It says 3 and looks like I slipped on the keyboard here. Notice how it's red here. I need to take away that apostrophe. And we'll save once again. Close. And let's go to a new sheet. I'm clicking the little arrow down here with the little asterisk. Let's click the drop down. Well, not a new sheet, but a new record. Okay, so I selected the name. It's filled in the banner. And there's the ACES ID. And there's last name and first name. So that worked. And let's just compare. It's 92228. Student 18. Or student 38, last name 38, first name 38. Let's see if that matches. And it does. But now it looks like when we select the data, it kind of covers up down here. We might not want this right over it, so we can slide this over. So we'll go back to design view. We don't need the property sheet anymore. I click the X. And I'm just going to hover my mouse and then move the canvas over a little bit. And then I'll grab this, left click and drag. So there, now we can see the information below as we select it. And it's still working. So you could pull up some data and then you can enter information. Then you go to a new one, and let's say the person isn't in the database, it still will allow you to enter information here. and new information. And as we enter information into this form, it goes into this copy of raw data here. Now let's close all this out. What we want to do next is maybe make this a little easier for the user. Instead of them having to go back and find this sheet, let's try to put the data sheet at the bottom of the form. So in design view, let's stretch out the canvas. I'm going to hover my mouse till it looks like that. And I'm going to stretch this out a bit so I can try to put the table at the bottom here. So that's going to be a subform, and that's one of these options up here. I'm still in design view under the controls group. Let me see if I can find the subform. I'm hovering my mouse over the ones that I think is it until there it is, subform or subreport. And then I'm going to left click and drag to draw it down here. Use existing table or query, yeah. Next. And I want all this information to show in the subform, and I want it from the copy of raw data, not raw data. Next. Would you like to define the fields, link your main form to this subform, or choose from the list below? Show copy of raw data for, yeah, let's choose from the list. And I'll choose the first option here. And next. And I'll leave the name copy of raw data subform. And now let's see what it looks like. I'll go back to form view. Then there's our data. Now if I go to new and enter some data and comments, notice the comment doesn't show right away, but if I refresh, then it does show. So to make this easier for our users, instead of them having to go up here and click and refresh, or instead of them having to find these arrows here, we can add some more buttons to this form. So we'll go back to design view. Back under the controls group in the design tab, we're going to add a control box or a button. Left click and drag to draw the button. And notice how it opens up a wizard. You can also add codes to these buttons. Let's go with record operations. And add new record. And I could put a picture on here, like a predefined picture, or I could browse and add my own picture. But I'm going to put text. And the text will be submit and add new. Next. And you could name it. I'll just leave the name at command 15. And finish. And there's our button, submit and add new record. And we can make it a little bigger. Now left click and drag. And let's also add one that will refresh data. So we'll add another button. Left click and drag. Form operations, we wanted that one, and refresh form data. Next. And we'll just leave the text at refresh. And next. And we'll just leave the title as the same, or the name. And now we have those buttons. And let's make this button a little bigger. Let's go ahead and save this. We could also add a delete button if we wanted to delete a record. Record operations. Delete record. Next. And this time, I already saved a small picture of a trash can, so I'm going to get the picture this time instead of using text. And next, and finish. And there's a picture of a trash can. I need to move this around. Let me make it a little smaller. Then I'll move it out of the way here. We can also add scrolls, record navigation, go to previous record, and one more. Go to next record. So now let's take a look at our form once again. So after you've entered a bit of data, you can go back by clicking previous. And notice I can't go to previous because I'm in the first record already, if you look down here at the bottom. So if I go to next, I should be able to scroll 4 times. And then now I can go to previous because I was at the end. And I can delete whichever record I'm in. And I could submit and add new record. It gives me the blank screen to work with here. So let's double check to make sure this copy of raw data is working down here. I'm going to add info. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. Now if I hit refresh, okay, so this table down here isn't acting right. I should see everything down here now. I've noticed at the bottom, I've entered a total of 8 records and it's not showing in the data subform. So I did something wrong on the subform. So I'm going to go back to design view. Click in the subform, click property sheet, and let's say that I don't want a link. Under data, I do want the data to come from copy of raw data subform, but let's delete all of this. And see, I don't want to link it at all. Actually, let's make the source is a copy of raw data. And I don't need an event. So let's save this and see what happens. Okay, this looks better. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items in here, and I have 7 items here. So let's submit and add new record. Submit and add new record. Refresh. And then there's the one I just entered and all the other information stays. So now the table is acting right. Now it's convenient for my users to see this, but what if they still just want to pop out the data sheet? But once again, I don't want them to have to go up here and find it. So I could add a button that pulls up this sheet. Now, I could use a code that pulls it up, but what I'm going to do is turn this table into a query or make a query based off the table, because that's one of the wizards that I could use with the button is opening a query. And I'll show you what I mean first. Let's go back to design view. Let me close property sheet. I don't need that at the moment. And let's go to a button here, and I'll put it right here next to the table. And notice the options I have here. None of these will open up a table. But notice miscellaneous. In miscellaneous, I could run a query. So I'm just going to make a query that pulls up the exact same data that's in the table, and then I'll make a button that runs a query. So I'm going to hit escape. Gonna go back over here to copy of raw data. I double tap to open it. Gonna click create. In the queries group, I'll make query design. And the query is going to be based on copy of raw data, add, and I believe if I just put this asterisk down here, it'll put all the information in the query. Let's take a look. I'm going to run it. Yep, that's exactly what I want. So let's save it, and I'll call this query copy of raw data. Now I'll close all of this. Back to the form and get rid of that because I'm going to use the wizard to make it. And go back to design view, design, button. So the actual command is going to be run query or open query, but I'm just going to call it for the user's sake pop out table or pop out data sheet. So we'll go to miscellaneous, run query, and there's only one query here. I'll select it, and the text will be pop out data sheet. And next, and finish. So now if we click this, it opens the data sheet, or opens the query actually, which looks exactly like the data sheet. Let's add a report with the raw data selected. We'll click create. In reports, we'll click report wizard. And we want all the information in the report. We'll click next. We don't need a grouping. We'll click next. We can sort it by banner. Next. And we want it columnar so it'll be easier to read. Next. And let's just take a look at the report. So this could be saved as a PDF or it can be printed out, and this will allow you to easily see the comments. So now let's start creating a menu that makes it easier to find our form and our report. I'm just closing all that. I'm closing the tabs, and we're going to go up here to the shortcut menu to switchboard manager. And it doesn't have one, so it wants to know if I want to create one. Yes. New switchboard, edit, and what I want to call the switchboard, I can leave the name as main switchboard, or I could call it main menu. New. So the first thing I want it to do is let's call it data entry, and the command will be open form in add mode. And the form I want it to open is this one, form copy of raw data. And OK. And I also want to add that report. So I'll click new again. And this will be view report. And this will be open report. And the report will be the only one there, raw data, and OK. And close. And close again. Form that I wanted to look at, which is here. There's my main menu. So now I want my database to open to this form. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go to File, Options, Current Database, Display Form, Switchboard. OK. So now let's close the database and open it back up. And here is the database. If we double tap, note how it opens directly to the form. And since I just copied it from another place, it's asking me to enable content. You'll need to tell your users about that. So now if I tap data entry, it should take me right to data entry. So another thing I need to add here is something that closes this form and gets me back to the switchboard. And then here's view report. So let me go back to the form, this one. Design view, button, form operations. Now I could tell it to close this form, or I could tell it to open the other form. And if I created a code, I could write a code that would do both. But let's just tell it to open the other form. We could leave this form open in the background. It shouldn't be a big deal. So we'll go to Open Form, Next, which form will be the switchboard, Next, and Next. And we'll say Back to Main Menu, Next, and Finish. And let's see if we can make this one a different color. So with this selected, I'll go to Property Sheet, Format. So let's see what we could do with BackColor. So I'm clicking the ellipses, and that's the current BackColor. Let's see if we can change it to green. So that style is Accent 6. And notice all the other options we have here. Let's close this. And as we can see, the button is green now. And if we click it, it takes us back to the switchboard, but then the form is still open up here. Now, in our quest to make this as easy as possible for our users, we probably want to hide this and even hide the main menu here. Maybe we only want, well, the ribbon. We want to hide the ribbon. We only want this showing when it opens. And so there's a couple of ways to do this, but I'm going to Google it. I want to try the code issue here, but you can also do it with XML. So let's try to add this one to our form. Do command show toolbar ribbon AC toolbar no. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to Design View, and while the switchboard is selected, I'm going to go to Property Sheet, Event, on Load, click the ellipses, Code Builder, and in between private sub and in sub, I'll paste that code, save, close this, let's close out Access, and let's open it and see what happens. Because now the ribbon is gone, but I still have this navigation pane over here, and I believe I can remove that without code. But now the problem is my menu's gone, so how do I go back into edit mode without a menu? Well, you can always use Shift to open it. So instead of just double tapping to open, I'll hold down my Shift key and double tap. And then here's my database. It shows up in the background. Here's on my toolbar. And then it opens normally. So you can use Shift to open it normally. And let's go to File, Options, Current Database. So we got the switchboard opening. So let's find the navigation. Oh, here it is. Here's the navigation area. And notice it says Display Navigation Pane. I'm going to uncheck that and click OK. And then I'm going to click Open. And now it's ready to use. Our users won't see any of this data unless they click Shift and then Open. And then they can make edits. So this cuts down on people making changes that you might not want, but it also makes it easier for the users to use because they don't see all the other information that they don't need. They can go to data entry, they can go back to the main menu, and they can view reports.